They told me not to ride through the desert after sundown. They said the dust out there wasn't just dust, it was ash, from the ones who never came back. I never believed those stories. Not until that night. The sun had just sunk behind the ridges when my horse Boone started getting restless. His breath came out in sharp, cloudy bursts, though the air was warm, too warm. I could smell the dry iron of the sand, the faint rot of something dead beneath it. And then, that silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums until you start hearing your own pulse. I remember tightening my grip on the reins and whispering, "Easy, boy." But he wasn't looking at me. His eyes were fixed on something in the distance, something moving through the haze. At first, I thought it was another rider, but the figure didn't sway with the rhythm of a horse. It glided. Its outline flickered in the dying light like smoke twisting in the wind. And behind it, the ground shimmered, red like embers buried beneath the sand. I nudged Boone forward, though every nerve in my body screamed not to. The wind picked up, carrying with it a low hum. It wasn't quite a sound, more like the echo of one, a vibration deep in my chest, crawling beneath my ribs. Then I saw it, a black horse standing dead still in the middle of the desert road. Its mane whipped against the wind, though the air around it was eerily still. And its eyes, God help me, its eyes burned crimson, like twin coals staring straight through me. Boone reared back, almost throwing me off. I yanked at the reins, my heart pounding, but when I looked again, the horse was gone. Only the dust remained. I should have turned back then. But curiosity's a dangerous thing out here. There's something about the desert. It makes you think the darkness is just emptiness. It's not. It's alive. I pressed on, trying to shake the feeling that I was being watched. The horizon bled into black, and the stars never came out. It was like the sky had been swallowed whole. That's when I heard the hoofbeats. Slow, heavy, too close. And I realized Boone wasn't moving. Boone's legs went rigid beneath me like dead beams. His flank didn't rise with breath. I could feel the pulse in his neck, faint like a moth's wing, then nothing. Panic is a cold thing. It strips you down to the bone and leaves you raw. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the reins, and the desert seemed to press in from every side, walls of velvet black air that tasted of iron and ash. The hoofbeats kept coming. Not from Boone, no, they came from a place just behind us, the sound of something vast pacing the edge of the world. Each step landed with the deliberate, measured patience of a predator that has already decided your fate. When the sound was nearest, the sand around us sucked at my boots, as if the ground wanted to pull me in and swallow me whole. I turned, slow as a confession, and saw the shadow first. It spread across the dunes like spilled ink, too tall for any man, horned at the crown, shoulders like broken cliffs. For a moment I thought it might be a mirage caused by heat, but the air at the edge of the silhouette crackled and smelled of rotten eggs. The shadow had a grain to it, like charcoal rubbed across skin. Then the horse emerged. Not from behind a ridge or a dune. It simply folded itself out of the darkness as if someone had unrolled it from a sheet. Blacker than night, wet-looking as if soaked in oil, its eyes two burning coals. Heat rolled off it in waves. The reins of that beast hung useless, dangling like discarded cords, yet it moved with the grace of a thing that knew exactly where the world's heart beat. It didn't gallop. It didn't even walk. It drifted toward us, and the sound of its hooves was a muffled thud, like someone hammering at the inside of my skull. Boone's mouth opened. A thin, dark steam poured from his nostrils and smelled like copper and old rain. I could hear the whisper behind the wind now, words without tongues, syllables made of dust. As the black horse approached, something changed in the dunes. The prints in the sand behind us were no longer mine. They were layered, my boot prints overlaid with smaller, perfectly shaped hoof prints. They led back to nothing. I crouched to touch them, half convinced I was seeing things. My fingers came away with grit that burned like embers. It stuck to my skin, and when I wiped it, the smear looked disturbingly like blood. I tried to kick Boone, to force him forward, but my legs felt heavy, as if the desert had poured lead into my boots. The hair on my arms rose. From somewhere close, too close, something inhaled, a sound like paper tearing. The shadow behind the horned shape shifted, and for a beat I saw the silhouette of a man riding that infernal horse. His face was turned away, but I could feel his attention like a hand laid flat across my face. Then he spoke, my name, not with a voice that came through the air, but a thought dropped directly into the hollow of my skull. You shouldn't have come alone. I thought I might vomit. The world had narrowed to the hiss of my blood and the heat of those coals burning through the dark. Boone slumped, his knees folding like rotten wood, and sand rose around him in a pale cloud. Where his body touched the ground, the sand smoked, and as the wind took the smoke away, Boone was nothing but a smear, an absence you could smell like burned hair. The black horse lowered its head until its muzzle brushed my boot. Its breath was a furnace that tasted of iron and old pennies. When it exhaled, the scorched grit clung to my skin. I wanted to run. I wanted to unbuckle myself and crawl on hands that were suddenly too clumsy, too human. My legs obeyed like they belonged to someone else, heavy, foreign, betraying. The rider, if you could call him that, leaned forward. Up close, his face unmade the world. It was my face. Not as I am now, but a thinner map of me, carved by older choices. His eyes were twin pits where no light could land. The desert seemed to hold its breath. Even the wind stopped as if listening for a verdict. You should have not come alone, he said again, but the words were older than language. They came as memories pressed beneath my ribs. My mother's scream from a house that burned, the sound of someone sliding into a well, the lullaby I never sang. Names I'd buried bubbled up in his voice. He knew them. He knew the weight I kept under my tongue. Panic vanished, and something colder took its place, recognition. The desert wasn't punishing me because I was lost. It was collecting what I owed. The horned shadow behind the rider thinned into a shape threaded with all the faces I had avoided, all the promises I had broken. I thought of the men at the bar that summer, of the pact smiled at in the dark. I thought of Boone's warm nose when I first touched him. I thought of how easy it had been to turn away. The rider reached out. Not to touch me. No, it touched the space where my heart lived. A pressure, a slow hand closing. My memories unspooled like thread. Names, laughter, the exact sound of a child's door closing. And one by one they were plucked away. I felt my weight lift from my bones. The world leaned forward in a terrible generosity, giving me one last clean look at everything I was losing. I tried to bargain. I tried to shout apologies into a mouth filled with gravel. The rider's lips never moved, but my pleas folded into the sand like letters no one would ever deliver. Then, with the gentleness of a man slipping a ring onto a finger, the rider wrapped my hands around the black reins. They were warm. They were mine. The horse moved, not with hooves, but with the unfolding of shadow, and I rose with it, unsteady, a puppet finally learning its strings. The desert swallowed our tracks and left only a single print, a hoof, and inside it, a small, familiar shoe. I looked down, and the sand looked back with my face in it. Welcome home.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.